Good evening. I would like to call to order the Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for September 15th, 2014. I'd like to remind everyone in the audience, please, if you have a mobile device, if you will please go ahead and put it on silent or vibrate so that it doesn't go off during the meeting. This is a live broadcast on Channel 22, and we would appreciate your help in that. We are happy that school is in session, and we have the Air Force Junior ROTC from J.M. Robinson High School with us tonight to present our colors, so I would ask everyone to please rise.
Color guard. Halt. Left. 8. Reason. Color.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Harry. Color. Oh. Left. 8. Forward. Arch.
We're also pleased to welcome tonight Dr. Tommy Steele, Senior Pastor at New Life Baptist Church in Concord, to present our invocation.
Let's bow in prayer. Father, I want to thank you so much for being part of a great city in a great county like Cabarrus County and Concord. And I pray that I thank you for our leaders, for our leaderships. God, I pray that you give them divine wisdom and direction as God would take care of our families, our communities, our children. And I pray, Spirit of God, that we won't lean to our own understanding, but all our ways acknowledge you. Let you be the one to direct the path. So, Father, please give our leaders wisdom and direction and guidance, and help us, Father, as we gather together as a team in our community, make a difference in the lives, for not just for the present, but also for the future. And everything that you do, we'll praise you, thank you, and give you glory. For we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Dr. Steele, thank you very much for coming tonight. We really do appreciate you taking time to come. I'd also ask the members of the Junior ROTC group if they will come, if the members of the ROTC group will please come forward. What I'd like for you to do is come up, please, to the microphone, and please tell us your name and your rank and what your future plans might be, especially if you're a senior.
Well,
and then if you will go to Commissioner Burridge, he will give you all a pen.
I am Cadet Major Tyler Forget. I'm a senior, and I am planning to attend the Citadel, trying to get a 4-year degree in mathematics, and hopefully join the Air Force afterwards.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Andrew Huffman. I'm a cadet major. I'm a senior, and after high school, I'd like to get a degree in physical therapy and work for the VA for our disabled veterans.
Great, thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Cadet Brown. I'm a senior in high school, and after high school, I'm going to go to Western Carolina and major in forensics, and then go into the Air National Guard.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Allison Rasu, and I am a first lieutenant, and I plan on going to UNC Charlotte and doing the ROTC program there, and hopefully majoring in mechanical engineering, and then joining the Air Force.
Thank you.
I'm Cadet Master Sergeant Hawes. I'm a junior, and after high school, I plan on going to UNC Charlotte, do the ROTC program there, and become an automotive engineer.
Great, thank you very much. We do appreciate all of you coming tonight. Commissioners, the first item that we have on our agenda is approval or correction of the minutes. You have those in your agenda. So at this time, may I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second? A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the agenda. To point out, we do not need a closed session tonight, so we'll take that off. Commissioner Burridge, I think you wanted to say something?
Number 3, I'd like to pull off and put back on new business.
Okay, so number 3 under consent. We will move that to number 5 under new business. Is that okay? Okay, are there any other changes to the agenda? If not, I'd accept a motion that the agenda be approved with the changes.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all very much. Okay, hang on, let me get to, oops, what I'm going to do. Okay, I think we've done this pretty much every year under our recognitions. Constitution Week. We were asked again to proclaim Constitution Week, and so let me read that for everybody. Whereas September 17th, 2014 marks the 227th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary, and whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize patriotic celebrations which will commemorate the occasion, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th through 23rd as Constitution Week, now therefore we, the Board of Commissioners of Cabarrus County, do hereby proclaim September 17th through 23, 2014 Constitution Week in the County of Cabarrus, and urge our citizens to reaffirm the ideals the framers of the Constitution had in 1787. Do I have a motion to adopt the proclamation?
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Is a motion and a second? Yes, sir?
May I just interject one thing? I believe that this is also the 200th anniversary of our Star-Spangled Banner, and while we're honoring the Constitution, we had just brought the flag, and I thought that would be neat to mention.
I believe I saw that today, too, on a post, so thank you for adding that. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next, we have Susie Morris is going to come up, and Larry Inslee's here? No, Susie's coming up, okay?
Tonight, we would like to recognize Mr. Larry Inslee. Mr. Inslee joined the Planning and Zoning Commission as an alternate member in October of 2006. In September of 2007, he became an at-large member to complete an unexpired term. His current term ended in August of 2014. Mr. Inslee served over 7 years on the Planning and Zoning Commission. During his time on the Planning and Zoning Commission, he served in a leadership role of chair, vice chair, and also on the Text Amendment Committee. He also served as a mentor to new commission members and participated in various land use plan activities. Staff would like to thank Mr. Enley for his service, and we wish him all the best, and unfortunately, he could not be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we do appreciate everybody that serves on the many different boards that we have. And just a comment, I think you probably will all agree with me that I think our average age of attendance tonight has gone a little bit lower than normal. I think we have a row of young folks out here, so I believe that you are with the Youth Council, correct? Would you stand up, please, if you are a member of the Youth Council so that we can make sure all of you stand up? And advisors. Thank you, Sia. You knew I was going to get you in there somewhere. We appreciate it. We're glad that you're here tonight. We hope you enjoy the meeting, and we hope that you get a lot out of being a member of the Youth Council. Thank you for coming. Okay. Commissioners, the next thing we have is informal public comments. For everybody that filled out the yellow cards, we also have a public hearing. So if you filled out that you wanted to talk about our item on the public hearing, I'm going to hold yours until then. Okay, unless somebody says that they're not going to stay around quite that long and they want to go ahead and talk now, but I don't think it'll take long for us to get to that. So if you filled out one for that item, I'm holding it out, but if the other items, I'm going to go ahead, okay? If there's anybody else that has a yellow card, if you will bring it over here to our clerk, then she can hand it down to me so that I won't miss anybody. Hey, first up, Mr. Price Crutchfield.
Thank you for allowing me to speak out. And unlike Scott Newell, who Thursday night defrocked me, he told me that I had to remove my hat, and I had to remind him that it wasn't a hat, it was a religious appliance. And it was supportive and a part of my religion. I'm a Muslim, but I'm not a terrorist. I think we need to divorce ourselves from this Islamomania and all this other mess. Now, and all the phobias thereof. I got this letter from the chief of police. I had complained about 2 Concord police officers who obviously are disrespecting our veterans. And I say that because they've been going around Concord spreading lies about me and saying that I assaulted Dexter Barlow's child. Sergeant Berg on Union Street in front of several people more than once said, "Mr. Crutchfield, you assaulted Dexter Barlow's child." I don't assault people's kids. I've never done that. I've never harmed a child or a woman in my life. There was a former Concord police officer. His name was Scott Newell, and he lied under oath in court on me, and he disrespected our veterans when he lied under oath after he took a sworn oath to uphold the law. He broke the law in court. He lied under oath to Judge Hamby on me when he said, "Your Honor, he's come into restaurants and harassed my family." Now, with all of this, I just going to have to argue that Concord's not the all-American city. It's the all-Gestapo city. And the police are getting away with things that they shouldn't get away with. Now, I maintain that I'm a law-abiding citizen. If I have violated life, liberty, or property of someone, then there has to be a damaged party. That's the way our system works. Of the 17 times I've been thrown in the clink, I know of no damaged parties that I've faced that could say that I violated the law. Here we got the Concord Gestapo making up lies about me because I exposed their criminal invocations and enterprises. We've got a double standard system where the Concord police are getting away with too much and disrespecting our veterans by their very actions. Actions speak louder than words. You can salute the flag all day long. Look at me, I'm saluting the flag. And then turn around and get in court and lie on people and then go walk down the street. "Oh, Mr. Crutchfield, you assaulted Dexter Barlow's child." Absolute liars. Now, obviously, the chief of police, according to this, he's recognized that my complaint has merit, and obviously he's admonishing these officers, according to this, but it says we'll do this through the internal process. No, I call it the secret process. Like Hitler's secret police, this is the secret process. And you see, internal affairs is another word for secret affairs. We're going to keep it secret because it's Mr. Crutchfield, and we don't want him to run his mouth. We'll just throw him in jail like we've done numerous times when he has broken no laws.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Carol Schmidt.
Good evening to the Board of Commissioners for Cabarrus County. As you know, my name is Carol Schmidt, and as a member of the Library Board of Trustees, I'm here to ask you to consider some changes to the library hours. As of this past Monday, September 8th, all libraries are open Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., closed on Sunday, Friday, and Sunday. In the past, the libraries have staggered their hours, so there was always a day when at least one library in the system was open, especially on Sundays. As it stands now, no library is open on either Friday or Sunday. This really puts many folks and high school students at a disadvantage, as they may only be able to get to the library on a Friday or a Sunday, and right now that is not available. Many of our citizens do not have access to a computer and depend on the library for that service. Up to now, our libraries have always been available to help those coming through our doors. I hope you will allow the interim director of the public library system an opportunity to address this need to the libraries at each branch so that hours can be adjusted to allow openings on Sundays and Fridays without changing the total number of hours each is open. This would really help many people in our county. Early in the discussions by the commissioners about where to cut the budget, one of the three men who will be leaving the board as of December 1st was heard to say he did not care where the budget was cut as long as it did not affect his lifestyle. Now I ask you all please consider allowing the libraries to stagger their hours so at least one library is open on Sunday and one on Friday, so it doesn't affect the lifestyle of our citizens who are only able to use the library on a Friday or a Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Allison Kitfield.
Good evening. My name is Allison Kitfield, and I've been a resident of Cabarrus County for almost 20 years, and I also am a passionate supporter of our library system. Over 72,000 people in Cabarrus County have a library card. 72,000. They range from the very young to the very old, natives of our county, new residents, natives of our country, new immigrants, the well-to-do and those with little or no resources, the very literate and those who are still struggling to learn to read, because the library, above all other institutions, is the great equalizer. And really the numbers, while impressive, are not surprising when you consider all that our libraries do. More than any other place in this county, our libraries provide a safe, welcoming public space where you can stay as long as you like, or right now, as long as you, the commissioners, will allow, without having to spend a penny. People living alone, whose ranks are increasing, have a place to escape isolation. Mothers meet other mothers, kids meet other kids at story hours and other child-oriented events. Students whose homes are noisy find a quiet place to do their homework. The considerable number of adults who cannot read in this community find tutoring. More than just shelves of books that bring many readers joy, our libraries provide all kinds of information about how to do things that are important to our residents. All this is possible with the help of our librarians, who are better trained than ever to assist people in finding the resources that are best, most credible, most current. Nationally, 3 in 10 adults lack internet, and based on my experience at Rowan Cabarrus, more of our community lack internet, and many people don't even have a computer. So as Carol noted, this is increasingly critical when job information and job applications are being driven almost exclusively online. I'd like to think that when you cut funding to the library, you weren't aware of how critical it is to many of our residents, especially those most vulnerable and least able among us. I would like to think that you're trying to be good stewards of the county's finances. but you are stealing from our future to pay for today. You have disrupted the library system, demoralized the staff, and I am sure that you have contributed to the leaving of a visionary, extraordinary library director. The shortened hours are not enough to serve our citizens, especially a half day over the weekend for those who work. Please reconsider and reinvest in this most precious county resource. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Barbara Thiede. Barbara? All right, there you are.
County Commissioners. Oh, sorry. That's okay. My voice is so loud, I figured I could do either one. So there we go. My next column is about a young man who I met only because he walked into the Mount Pleasant Library. He met there a friend of mine who is a laborer of the land and was reading. This young man is walking across America. He went to this library because it was a place for him to be safe. From California to New York, and he ended up in the Mount Pleasant Library. And because he was there, I have stories to tell you of the strength of the youth in this country, of their visions and of their dreams. Last Friday, I went to visit a congregant of mine who was dying. About a year ago, she lost the ability to speak. But never did I ever visit her, never, without seeing her with a stack of library books at her side. Until she was moved to hospice, the Concord librarians who knew her so well and who loved her and cared for her were able to choose books for her, though she could not come to the library herself. What can I say to you other than this? Nothing the library does, or the people who work in it, is gratuitous or extraneous. Nothing. Nothing is without purpose. Nothing does not serve the citizens of this county. I ask you, I beg you to keep this in mind when you make decisions that affect those very citizens. I would like to remain a proud member of this county. Help me do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is David Hampton.
Just like to take a few minutes and talk concerning the $3.9 million budget cuts, where we are now, what they did we gain anything, what did we lose? First off, by talking about a few of the cuts, the employee health clinic. This was a substantial money-saving program, and I can only imagine the bills that are now rolling into the county that will continue to eat away at the $3.9 million budget cuts. The reduced health insurance benefits. I'd like to remind you that the employees were already paying part of their coverage. I think when this first came out, it looked like that they weren't paying any, but they have been paying part of their coverage, and it was not free. And this is where employee retention obviously needs to be a concern. Terminate expenditure increase to meet salary study, another employee hit. The county needs to be competitive with other surrounding counties. Delete the wellness coordinator position. If you delete this person can change. If it only changes one person, and prevents a major weight or health-related issue, or helps prevent with just one on-the-job injury, this salary is more than covered. Remove funding for 4 library positions in the Concord Main Library. The county ultimately ended up losing additional staff, including the library director, who, by the way, was North Carolina Public Library Director of the Year in 2012. Removing funding from Midland Library positions, no real rebuild on Camp Spencer structures, kill funding for Wallace Park and Midland, kill funding for the EDC. Actually, I think there were about 17 cuts and 20 or so positions that were lost. Gee, I wonder why there was no public comment on the cuts. And I'd say this is well played, Mr. Osterreich. I'm sure you left that night feeling very proud. If this passes tonight, concerning the $3.9 million, it will be put in the construction fund. Commissioners Burridge and Meismer, I just ask, do you honestly think that's the right thing to do? If nothing else, staff and public review and comment should have been allowed if not required. You both voted for him to cut money, say a money-saving program that benefited every county employee, and regardless of party affiliation or political views, that was just wrong. Obviously, all this has been pretty negatively negatively affected every citizen in Cabarrus County in one way or another. It's kind of hard not to believe that that was the intention. Let's quit talking about numbers that don't mean anything to the average citizen. 300 billion, 7 trillion, 52 gazillion. I'm sorry, but these similar numbers just mean very little to the average person. Myself and a lot of other people want to know what it means to my finances, my taxes, and ultimately the money in and out of my pocket. The $3.9 million in budget cuts in regards to taxes, if you're paying taxes on $100,000 worth of property, it would be $20 per year or $1.75 per month in tax cuts. Don't go out and spend that $20 because you're not getting a tax cut from this. The citizens could continue to keep these services. The citizens and employers could have all you took away by the cuts back for the same amount it would cost each family of 4 to make only one trip to McDonald's for value meals. And I know it's never been presented like that, but that's the amount of money we're talking about that you could fund all these cuts with. So I'm just asking that you really look at it. I know it's been presented very simplistic, but I think it's time for simplicity and common sense to be used in government decisions. Thank you.
Okay, the only other cards that I have deal with the public hearing in G1. So I'm going to hold those unless somebody needs to talk. Okay, so we'll wait on those. Commissioners, the next thing we have is the consent agenda. And just to note, item number 3 was removed and placed under new business. So at this time, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, now we have new business. Londa Strong is here. So do you want to come up first? Or, I mean, I can do it, you can do it? It doesn't matter. Okay. This is the Active Living and Parks Department ordinance related to North Carolina General Statute 14-415.23, which we need to hold a public hearing for. So why don't we'll start with the public hearing, and then any comments, commissioners, we'll go that way, okay?
Can I make a statement right quick? Before the people come up here and talk, Sheriff Riley has asked that we exempt the fair for the week of the fair from the concealed carry. All of you come up here talking about concealed carry. I want to know what you think about exempting the fair for 1 week in the year. He was supposed to be here and speak. I don't know where he's not here, I don't think. But just to give him the consideration of what he's asked for, I'd like to know what all of you think before we take this vote. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the public hearing for those persons who wish to speak for or against the ordinance. And what I'm going to do is go through the cards, and once I go through the cards, I'll open it up to anyone who didn't fill out a card, okay, since it's a public hearing. And we are going to start with Representative Larry Pittman. Welcome.
Good evening. Having been myself the driving force behind the effort in the legislature last year, which culminated in the passage of House Bill 937, I'm glad to be able to speak to you about this. I want to remind everybody, maybe there might be some here who don't know, that North Carolina refused to ratify the U.S. Constitution until a Bill of Rights was added, including a Second Amendment, which recognized the God-given right to keep and bear arms, the right of self-defense, which was not simply about protecting yourself from somebody breaking in your home. It was even about protecting ourselves from a rogue government that might oppress us. Gun-free zones, wherever they are created, actually are places that leave criminals, terrorists, invaders, or a rogue government free to act upon their victims without resistance. That is un-American, and that should not happen. In House Bill 937, we have acknowledged that over the last several decades, a lot of that freedom to keep and bear arms has been stolen from our people through scurrilous legislation, which masqueraded as a desire for increasing public safety, but which actually does exactly the opposite. It has been clearly shown by experience, and you can look at any kind of study and statistics, and an honest look shows that where the people are armed, crime is reduced, and that the opposite is also the case. And so I would just simply encourage you, in looking at the right of our citizens to keep and bear arms, to allow them the exercise of that right, give them that freedom to exercise that right with as broad a latitude as current state law allows. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is William Morris III.
Good evening, Commissioners. I spoke with you last week about this same issue, and I said last week that I believe that the ordinance was one that did not go far enough that was written and presented last month. And I was a little discouraged, and but due to the statements by Mr. Burridge and Mr. Osterreich, I'm pleased that they have decided to allow us to exercise our Second Amendment rights in a more open and broad manner. And I just ask that going forward that everyone on the board support that view and allow us to conceal carry in as broad as possible in places that are not restricted by state law. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Noel Moreland.
Hello. I'm the mother of two 3-year-old identical twin girls, and as a recent widow, it is my sole responsibility to keep them safe. It's no walk in the park. Cabinet locks under the sink, knob covers on the stove, gates on the stairs. But I can't child-proof the outside world. And so I am for allowing concealed carry in our county parks and other places of recreation. According to the North Carolina Department of Justice website, there are currently a total of 264 registered sex offenders within 5 miles of our 3 county parks. A study done in 2004 showed that there is a 37% reoffense rate among convicted sex offenders. So statistically, 90 of those offenders will strike again. I've even had a Cabarrus County Sheriff's deputy tell me about all the offenders that they've removed from the county fair. Of course, that's not my only concern. I'm 5'3", 120, 130 pounds. With 2 small children in tow, I'm easy pickings for a carjacker or a robber, and compliance with a criminal does not guarantee my safety. If anything happens to me, my children will be orphaned. And that's why I carry. And I don't go where I can't carry. The same can't be said for criminals who, by the very definition of the word, don't follow the law anyway. You're not going to see shootouts between soccer moms over the swings. North Carolina does not publish the number of crimes committed by concealed handgun permit holders, but Texas does. And in 2012, only 0.2% of those convicted of any crime had a carry license. By allowing concealed carry in places of recreation, the only consequence is that I can finally enjoy our beautiful parks. And who doesn't want that?
Thank you. Our next speaker is Frank LaRoche III.
How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? I am a retired first sergeant from the United States Army, and I'm retired from the Cabarrus County Sheriff's Office. I was the sex offender registration officer for the last 8 years there. Carry conceal permits, I understand what they have to go through to get them. Background check, fingerprints, NCIC entered, a lot of precautions done on that. Sheriff Riley has to sign off on them to be able to carry those carry conceal permits. Does that give us all a guarantee that they're not going to do anything? No, sir. No, ma'am. But they've taken a course to understand what is right and wrong. When we restrict our citizens of this county from being able to carry a carry conceal permit, a weapon, into our park and recreation areas, what we've done is told the rest of the community that it's not law-abiding, that is a good place to go and commit my crime. Excuse me, I'm a little nervous. First time speaking in front of y'all. I started looking up and trying to find pros and cons to carry conceal. I couldn't find any cons. Pros, my wife calls me when she gets to work in the morning. When she leaves to go to Curves, she calls me and lets me know she's leaving. She lets me know she's there. She has a carry conceal permit. She lets me know when she leaves Curves. Not that I'm holding my thumb over my wife. I'm concerned about her safety. She does have a carry conceal. I bought her weapon. She carries it in her purse. When you go into an ABC store, honey, take it out, please. Don't go in there with it. She knows where not to carry one. But when she goes walking our trail right down the road here, it scares the crap out of me that somebody's going to jump out of the bush and grab my wife, grab somebody else's wife. When I'm walking with her, whether it be one of your family members, grandkids, wife, sister, would you just assume me have my carry conceal on me if I see someone trying to abuse one of your family members or one of their family members? I've been to Korea, Japan, 2 combat tours, all over the world. Alaska, during the re-election of the mayor, he was issued 2 6-shooters, pearl handle. I saw him pumping gas at the local gas station wearing them. Alaska, you don't hear of, you turn on the news, the first 3 minutes in our news is who shot who and who killed who. You don't hear that in Alaska. Yes, it's the last of the frontier. Does that mean I need to shut up? I'm sorry. I just feel that the protection for our community does not restrict us from what we can or can't do to help protect the rest of our citizens. I protected it as a soldier, I protected it as local law enforcement in our county, and I'd like to continue. Thank you all. I worked with Sheriff Brad Riley, Cabarrus County Sheriff's Office, sir.
Do you have any thoughts about whether or not to have concealed carry during Fair Week?
Yes, sir. Fair Week, it is inundated with deputies.
Right.
Deputies off duty in civilian clothes. I used to dress up in a wig, and I used to go out there with a broom and a dustpan and look for sex offenders abusing children. That place is inundated with law enforcement. Should we carry there? There is law enforcement within a snap. I do not believe that carrying a concealed weapon inside the fairgrounds is something that we need to do. We're already protected there. There's more deputies per square foot there than at any other time we're outside that fairgrounds. So I agree with Brad Riley, yes, sir.
Well, that was the sheriff's point, that there was deputies everywhere out there, and there was no guns going to get in the fairgrounds. Which, you know, you can get guns in anywhere if you want to. But I just wonder if we exempted that one part for 1 week, what's that going to do to hurt the rest of the?
Well, that was a request from our local sheriff.
Right.
And I think we need to trust his guidance and judgment that he's going to have the personnel there to keep our children and our families safe.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Denver Walker.
Good evening, folks. My name is Denver Walker, and that's kind of a hard to follow up there. But I'm here to address about the concealed carry issue before you. Whether or not I have a concealed carry permit is irrelevant. Our Constitution plainly gives us the right to its citizens, as all of you well know. It states that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That means you, the government, and what part of the command shall not do our lawmakers at the local, state, and federal level not understand. The Constitution and Bill of Rights were written in layman's terms for the average citizen understanding. And as I recall, everyone of that period did not have a PhD, a law degree, or a master's. And because of the opposition by the NC congregation to the Constitution, we now have the Bill of Rights in that great document. Those rights from time to time again have been infringed upon by our local, state, and federal government, be it freedom of speech, religion, property rights, the right to keep and bear arms, and the list goes on. Our state and local governments have an opportunity to set an example for the rest of the nation once again by upholding these rights and freedoms, not reducing them. And as far as the fairgrounds are concerned, I disagree with these gentlemen. I think we should carry wherever except for the state statute says we should not. And based on that, I would recommend that you take a step in the right direction and approve these recommended changes to allow concealed carry in all areas of the county other than those spelled out in the state law for concealed carry. And I appreciate your let me have input.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Olinda Walker.
I'm Melinda Walker of Midland, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm here to voice my concern for the right to conceal carry by citizens who have proven responsibility by their efforts on their part to learn of firearm safety and of the responsibilities of such and to be tested, thus earning the right to carry a firearm. The Bill of Rights guarantees citizens the right to protect self and family. Oh, I'm sorry, sure. Some of the comments that I might be making in the future might be a little offensive to some people, but they can look up the facts like I did. I want to remind you of the recent tragedies. Had a concealed carrier been able to have his legal firearm ready and available, individuals in schools, restaurants, movie theaters, and on college campuses, and parks, I might say, would not have been, their lives might not have been cut short and such a catastrophic loss of life occur. And I might add that these instances have occurred in some of the highest gun-controlled areas in the whole United States. And the perpetrator was not a Republican. I won't say that he was a Democrat or unaffiliated, but he was not a Republican. It's doubtless to be said, or it's doubly to be said, that a concealed carrier whose firearm is required by law to be left in a vehicle during a shooting where his family and others are gunned down in cold blood, when his single shot from his gun could have stopped it cold. Now that is pretty sad, but it did happen. Our right to bear arms is under the Bill of Rights to protect our lives against tyrannical government, and we're there. Our government is now training people under the United Nations to come against United States citizens at a time only known to them. Please help the citizens of Cabarrus County retain their ability to defend themselves, their family, and their neighbors. And as far as the fair, I have picked up trash out there for my church. I've been there with my family, and there are a lot of areas out there where a person can be dragged and accosted, and who knows what can happen to them before one of those wonderful people out there that do have the ability to fight back could get to us. And I'm just asking for my own protection and that of my family to be able to know that there are people there that could defend me. Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is Reverend Robert Pallison.
Hello, I'm the Reverend Robert or Bob Pallison. I work at the Poplar Tent Presbyterian Church, and I also have a wood badge which I got from Boy Scouts. I'm a retired Boy Scout Scoutmaster as well. It's interesting, but the book of James in the Bible tells us true religion is this, to care for widows and orphans in their distress. I didn't know when I was in seminary that dealing with widows in my church was going to involve helping them fire guns and perhaps work to get a concealed carry. I have a concealed carry already, and as you look at me now, you wouldn't know that I was carrying a pistol holster. The pistol is not there, so I'm not breaking any laws, but just looking at me, you would not be aware that I was carrying a armed vehicle. Ladies are able to carry guns in cars, but a lady can't carry a pistol very well on a holster on her side. She needs to carry it in her purse. The three ladies I'm working with have wondered, okay, I can use that at home, but when I go out, what do I do? So concealed carry, going to the fair, going anywhere else, I think would be available to someone who was able to keep that in their purse wherever they were. The newspapers do not tell us very much about people who have profited from concealed carry. 24-year-old Everett Mosby of Cleveland used his gun to save himself from two men who assaulted him in his home. And you won't learn about how the Arkansas pharmacy owner, Bill Canada, used his firearm to save himself from an armed violent criminal who was robbing his place of business. But even more important is a Louisianan, Colby Patout, a bystander who happened to see a bicyclist being mauled by two dogs. He pulled out his concealed pistol and then used that to help the man get rid of his attackers. We do a lot. It is important that people realize the thing that will stop a bad person with a gun is a good person with a gun. So however you do it in this situation or anything else, I'm urging you to widen the variety of places that concealed carry can be carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andy Stevens.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Andy Stevens. I represent the leadership of Grassroots North Carolina. North Carolina's No Compromise Gun Rights Organization. We have over 15,000 members. We have an alert list that approaches over 120,000 people. We are well represented here this evening with people that are residents of Cabarrus County. I just want to talk briefly about a few items. Number one, lawful concealed carry has been the law of the land here in North Carolina for 20 years now. It actually first became available to citizens to exercise that right in 1995. Since those 20 years, the rights to carry have been expanded time and time again, sometimes with state preemption to counteract the efforts of municipalities and jurisdictions that would like to create a hodgepodge of rules and regulations that the average ordinary citizen cannot possibly comprehend or follow, thus making inadvertent criminals out of lawful citizens. Incidences, as has been stated before, with CHP holders is extremely rare. You can ask your own county sheriff because he, in fact, is responsible for maintaining the certification of all CHP holders here in this county. And you can ask him how many have had to be revoked or how many have been involved in an incident. You'll find that statistically, concealed carry holders are more safe and more trustworthy and less criminally behaving than law enforcement in general. That's an enlightening observation. Again, many of the places that have been expanded to include places, for example, parks, and parks have been actually legislated twice in the last 3 years. In 2011, parks carry was first authorized, and jurisdictions that have not updated their ordinances to allow carry in parks are basically technically having avoided law at this point. But in 2013, as Representative Pittman pointed out, we had to go back to the legislature and ask them to define more specifically the areas that could be restricted in parks, because some jurisdictions were making novel definitions of lakes as swimming pools and things like that in order to prohibit concealed carry where it was lawful by state law. I've gone to a number of these meetings here in the past few weeks. I'm starting to put on as many miles, I think, as a congressional representative running around for re-election. But Lee County has just approved an ordinance that will repeal all their concealed carry restrictions in Lee County. 2 weeks ago, Rowan County did the same thing. Additionally, a number of other counties have already repealed all restrictions on lawful concealed carry, including Alamance County, Ashe County, Cherokee County. Even Forsyth County, and Forsyth County has responsibility for Tanglewood Park, where they also sell alcohol, and they've removed all restrictions in that facility as well. Even the more urban counties of Mecklenburg and Guilford have at least eliminated all restrictions in their entirety in parks. Has also been pointed out, there are over probably 500,000 concealed carry permit holders in the state of North Carolina right now. The fastest growing segment are young women, and particularly for the reasons that have been expressed already, and those numbers are continuing to grow. These people vote, and obviously they vote as a group. It's something to keep in mind as well. As you make your decision tonight, like I say, you've heard from a number of people, and they all, from all walks of life. People, again, you wouldn't know that you're carrying just based on the fact that they're here in this organization. But I will tell you this, it was enlightening when I was at the Lee County Commissioners meeting just last week, when they were asking of their staff, who had some hesitation about allowing their employees even to carry in the county facilities. They asked, do we know, are there people in these facilities that carry weapons illegally? And everybody was hemming and hawing and saying, oh, we don't know, until the health department people spoke up and said, yes, in fact, every day we see people that bring concealed weapons illegally and unlawfully into the facilities. So it dispels the notion that if you believe that there are no weapons where you think a magic sign says there are no weapons, you are incorrect. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ronnie Long, and Ronnie handed this, so I'm going to pass that over, and right here, hand one over to Megan too.
Good evening, Commissioners. The document that you have before you is a longer version of what I have here because I couldn't fit all of that into 3 minutes. Madam Chairman, Commissioners, you recently renamed one of our county parks to Veterans Park in honor of those who have served our county and fought for our freedoms. In Kannapolis, there's a park with a monument containing hundreds of names dedicated to the memory of and honoring the sons and daughters of Cabarrus County who have fought and died for our freedoms from as far back as our war for independence. Cabarrus County and North Carolina have a proud heritage of fighting to support the Constitution of the United States and the great state of North Carolina. I hold in my hand a copy of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the Bill of Rights. I'd like to call your attention to the Second Amendment of our Bill of Rights, which states, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, before you come, we the people of Cabarrus County, peacefully assembled to petition you, our county government, for a redress of our grievances. Since our U.S. Constitution specifically states the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, we the people of Cabarrus County respectfully submit our desire to have our Second Amendment upheld in its entirety. We desire the complete removal of any and all restrictions to our God-given rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness being secured by our right to keep and bear arms. The unconstitutional restrictions against our freedom to own and carry weapons for the sole purpose of self-defense of our persons, our families, and our communities must be removed as they stand in direct opposition to the Constitution and our God-given rights. In addition, any restrictions against carrying a concealed weapon by any legally qualified and licensed concealed weapons permit holder must also be removed. By preventing peaceful, innocent, and lawful citizens from carrying a weapon for self-defense through unconstitutional regulations, you are only empowering those who would prey upon them and who would do not respect any of our laws, rules, ordinances, or signs. Having gun-free zones only makes those who respect our laws targets and potential victims of those who would mean to do us harm, including our schools and our defenseless children. As the gentleman from Grassroots, North Carolina just said, Alamance, Cherokee, and just last month, Rowan County lifted county restrictions on the lawful carry of firearms, and Lee County is poised to do that same thing in October. Those county leaders understood that a patchwork of gun-free zones serve only to make accidental felons out of otherwise peaceful, law-abiding citizens while doing nothing to ensure the safety of anyone. By voting to lift all these restrictions, you will be honoring your oaths of office, expressing your respect for our Constitution, for personal responsibility, and empowering citizens with the ability to properly provide for the defense of themselves, their families, and our community at large. Don't allow this opportunity to do the right thing slip through your fingers. The citizens of Cabarrus County are depending on you to make the right choice. Remove all restrictions, preventing us from defending ourselves and our children. And as far as the fair is concerned, there was an article recently on social media about a robbery at a state fair that ended rather badly. So I am in full support of being able to carry concealed on the fairgrounds property by anyone who is legally authorized and lawfully permitted to do so. Thank you.
Okay, those are all the cards that I have to address this issue. Again, this is the public hearing based on what is commonly called the carry and conceal, North Carolina General Statute 14-415.23. Is there anyone who did not?
There was one more card.
You want to talk about something else, if you'll wait, based on this card, okay? If you'll wait, please. That's the only card I have. If there's someone else, then it is a public hearing. So he's coming up first, okay? Yes? Okay, let me get them first. I had your card for another reason. That's why I was going to call on that for later.
Hi, my name is David Treese. Thank you, Commissioner Osterreich, for adding this to the agenda. And thank you, Commissioner Burge, last month for making your comments in support of the Second Amendment. I wanted to address your concern about Sheriff Riley. I think that allowing us to have to ban it for 1 week is not the right thing to do because it's creating government reliance. I think the point of conservative values is to have independence and to be able to protect yourself and to your family. And so by doing that, that relies on future governments. We don't know what the budget is going to be, what the Sheriff's Department will get cut in future years. And so we're allowing legislation that we won't hear about for probably years in the future to be dependent on what we see right now. And we can't do that. Our lives are our most important thing, and so we should value that. Thank you.
Do you wish to speak also?
Thank you very much. My name is Tony Treese, and I'm honored to stand here for 3 minutes and say thank you, commissioners, for having the desire to fulfill our great Constitution by trying your best for us not to be able to infringe our constitutional rights. We greatly appreciate that. And our constitutional rights, as we all know, have been given by God, quite frankly, the supreme being. And I do have a problem with being able not to carry at the fairgrounds. I believe that's being infringed upon. I've been a businessman here in Cabarrus County for over 30 years. I'm a public speaker. I speak all over America and Canada. And most of our clients, at least half of our clients, being in business for 30 years, half of our clients have concealed carry permits. And I highly encourage our clients to do so. Our clients are an average age of 65 years old. We work with pre-retirees and retirees at Treesco, and we highly recommend all of our clients to get their concealed carry permits. Because I am in the financial services business, my degree is in pastoral theology, and I actually am preparing our clients for very difficult times to come in America. Many things as we know them today will be greatly changing in the very near future. Very near future, many things will be changing. I want to thank Congressman or Commissioner Oestreich, appreciate it. One day Congressman, hopefully. Jason Oestreich, Commissioner Jason Oestreich, for taking a bold stand to try to bring in our budget situation here in Cabarrus County, which you've taken many arrows in the back for that. I would like to greatly share my great appreciation for that. I sincerely mean that from the bottom of my heart, for Larry Burgess and for Chris Meismer for standing strong. And regardless of what people say about you, we greatly appreciate that for all you men have meant for Cabarrus County and for what you've done for Cabarrus County. We greatly appreciate that. And I just ask and plead with all of you to take this thing very seriously. And there's a saying that says there's no atheist in a foxhole. Well, there will be no atheist in gun control within the next 24 months. There'll be many times, I believe with all my heart, perhaps if you do not have your concealed carry permit, you'll wish that you would have gotten acclimated to carrying a gun like I do 7 days a week, regardless of carrying the gun. I carry a gun with me 3 days a week at church or 2 days a week at church, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. If I'm speaking, I have at least one firearm on me at all times in any state of America that I'm in. Thank you very much.
Jordan?
Say good night to y'all. My name is Reverend Jordan. I'm in the spirit tonight. Okay, first I'll let you know I ain't afraid of y'all. No, you ain't afraid of me, but I got a lot of power. But this is peace season. Okay, Sheriff Riley, I support him 100%. When I went to the fairground, you got all them sheriffs out there, you got all them undercover people, you don't need no gun. Ain't nothing to be afraid of. Now the park, they got a park ranger, some of them don't. If you got a gun, put it in your car and lock it. Because you might have some terrorists out there, you need your weapon. But like I say, hope you make the right decision. Now thank you for using the park. Would you need a gun? Now check it out, that's it.
Hey, is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
I wasn't going to say anything, but my name's Larry Marlowe. I live on Odell School Road. But back several years ago, when some commissioners were shot, I think it's in Missouri, but I'm not sure what state it was. Y'all, the commissioners at that time, came back and okayed carrying a concealed weapon here. So you can, because they said sometimes the deputy back here may not be in the right position to help out, so they okayed to carry a concealed weapon. So you can carry a concealed weapon to come here if you want it. But we should be able to carry a pistol anywhere we want to, period. I can understand a bank because, you know, you can't do that but walking areas where women are going, they're crazy people out there now. They could get attacked, and if they had a pistol, you know, they could stop the attack. So I ask y'all to vote, limit all that stuff that you're talking about. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak for or against this particular issue? Okay.
Ma'am, I'd like to address one other issue, though, if I could.
We're just doing the public hearing part.
Well, you're also talking about your 1 week restriction on the county fair.
Did you make it quick? I'm trying to be honest because you already had your time to come up. So if we can make it quick.
Well, it's a different issue, but we are in the process at Grassroots, North Carolina, of informing Commissioner Troxler that the state fairgrounds are a place where concealed carry is lawful, and we will oppose any attempt to restrict lawful concealed carry at the state fairgrounds in Raleigh. Depending on whether or not you are actually holding your state or county fair on what would be considered a park, state law is very specific as to what you can restrict. and you must only be able to restrict what is currently in current state law as embodied in House Bill 937. Thank you.
Okay, wait, I'm sorry, you have to come up to the microphone, because otherwise we can't get you. And if there's anybody else, if you'll stand up so we can, I want to give everybody a chance to speak, but we got some other items too, so.
The only
Yes,
thing I
ma'am.
want to say is that I think, Melanie Overcash, the only thing I would like to say is that I think you should keep it consistent. I think exceptions to these types of things cause problems with whether you can carry or not, and I think consistency in this would be good. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see anybody else standing up, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Okay, do you want to, the only reason I'm going to you, Larry, is you.
I have a comment about the LAX thing, and since Chairman, Commissioner Burridge had interrupted our speaker, I didn't want to interrupt him, but, not the LAX thing, the fairgrounds. We heard from the deputy back there that they have the fairgrounds covered, and I fully understand that they feel like that they have the fairgrounds covered. I want to point all of our audience and our viewers to Ferguson, Missouri. Just a month ago, you had the state troopers there. You had the National Guard in Ferguson. You had the sheriff and you had the police. You had all of these law enforcement resources, and yet they made an administrative decision that they were not going to protect you or protect your property if you were in a certain area. And the only reason that those people's property was protected was because they had the right to carry a firearm. Now, when chaos hits, people, let's say we've got 200. Let's say you've got the whole department over there. You've got 300 sheriff's deputies in this county. You've got 16,000 people there. You think that they're not going to be picking and choosing which person that they're going to take care of? Now, if you've got a young child out there at the fair and something big like what happened a few years ago happens, and 300 or 400 people are fighting in front of you, and your child's the one that's going to get hurt, and there doesn't happen to be a police officer standing right there, I want the right to be able to take care of my own family. I would say that consistently there is a mentality that the more dangerous an area gets, the more police come there, and the argument is by the progressives that when you get those areas, we keep law-abiding citizens from coming there and being able to defend themselves. And we're talking about an area that's more dangerous. Why would we make it less likely that they can carry? And finally, when you really sit down and think about it, it really just comes down to this. If we don't allow concealed carry at the fair, we are going to make criminals out of plain American citizens that have gone through all of the background check that would like to go exercise their constitutional right on our fairgrounds. We're going to make criminals out of those people. So I would like to make a motion, and I want this statement specifically included in my motion. I want to move that for the express purpose.
I'm sorry. Do you have copies for us?
I don't, but you can have this
fine.
one. Well,
no,
you
go
can
ahead
share
and
this
read.
one.
I just wanted. It's easier if I follow along. So
you can have that one. For the express purpose of opening concealed carry to as many locations as we are permitted, you can give that one to Megan, and acknowledging that we have the permissible right to regulate firearms in certain areas in the county parks under state law, we are purposefully choosing to leave such areas unregulated and allow concealed carry on all portions and all premises of all county property. So based on those two statements, I move to amend our county ordinance to allow concealed carry on any and every area of property owned by or operated by the county, with the exception of the courthouse, the jail sheriff's administration facility, and the animal control facility, where we are prohibited by law from allowing in those, or where the county is specifically prohibited by law from allowing concealed carry, such as at a public school. The list of facilities where concealed carry shall be allowed explicitly includes, but is not limited to, all areas of all parks, the arena, the fairgrounds, all 52 weeks of the year, any library in the governmental center, and any other government building or facility.
can I just clarify, because I want to make sure that this is what Rich had said at the end of. I like to look while you're reading. The end of number 3, you said such as at public schools.
Right.
It was my understanding that it was public school events. That if there is a public school event, we talked about cross country at one of the parks, that is included. Okay, so is that, I just want to clarify and make sure. Is that correct?
So Rich is free to disagree with me, but under the doctrine of statutory interpretation, the most recent law controls an older law. And the most recent law is that we are prohibited from regulating public parks except in those 3 specific areas. And so I think the most recent law controls that. And so we are permitted to do that, but not required to do that. So I think the legislature has expressed a different intent. My motion is to allow it that way. If the schools specifically want to take responsibility for signing those events when they go there, I would be amenable to having some exception for that. But really, truly, I think we ought to just leave the law the way that it is and make it open and available for people. And if we run into a problem down the road, we can make a small exception for it.
Well, and the only reason I ask is because we have specifically discussed in the work session about cross-country events at one of our parks. So I want to make sure that I understand what the law says. Would you please
Yes, just
address?
briefly on that subject. I think that is problematic because if you look at NCGS 14-269.2, paren A, paren 1, it defines educational property as any school building or bus, school campus, grounds, recreational area, athletic field, or other property owned, used, or operated by any Board of Education. So if it's being used, even if it's owned by the county, which would apply to Frank List Park, for example, if it's being used for a school event, or, for example, a school park, as they're called, which are used from time to time by the adjacent school to that park, then if it's being used, then that's a state prohibition, the way I read it, to being able to conceal carry at the time that it's being used for that purpose. Now, I think that arguably, if it's not being used at that time for a school purpose, then there would be no problem with it. And I think that would also apply to the school parks, for that matter. I think they're just called school parks because of their location, not because of their because of anything other than their proximity to a school. They're probably used more than the regular county parks are for school events because of the proximity. But if they're during the summertime and at other times that school's not in session and they're not being used, then I don't think that this statute would apply. But the way it's written, when it says used, then that leads me to believe that it's consistent with the intent of that statute, which would be for there not to be, that concealed carry would be prohibited on school property or at school-related events.
The Board of Education would like to notice and sign areas when they come into an area and take responsibility for signing that. That would be fine with me. I think you do have a problem. For instance, we had Cox Mill ROTC here tonight. Is the public facility using, or is the school system using this building tonight? Are we allowed to carry in this building because we've got ROTC here, we've got students from the Youth Council here tonight? Are they using this facility? Are we prohibited from carrying? So you really do run into this issue of potentially creating these very odd spheres where anytime a school person is there, and I just, based on, like I said, if you disagree with the fact that a later statute controls an earlier statute, I welcome your opinion, but they very clearly wanted to broaden concealed carry. That's in the legislative purpose of that bill, and it very clearly says where we can prohibit concealed carry in our parks, and it was an expression that people should be able to carry. So if they were running cross-country there and you were on the back side of the park and there's a couple different loops and they touched one, I mean, if the Board of Education wants to explicitly sign the areas that they are using, I have no problem making an exemption. But otherwise, I think it should fall on the Board of Education to notice people that they are using that facility. And absent such notice, it should not fall on our citizens.
I just want to make sure we're following the law. I think that's the whole point of this, was to make sure that our ordinance follow the law. I don't have any problem with somebody with the proper permitting to be able to follow the law. I just want to make sure that we're not being, based on our conversations now, I just want to make sure people know what they can and can't do. Because the worst thing is for somebody to be there, for example, and get arrested for whatever reason, and then there's some ambiguity. I mean, maybe there is ambiguity, there is in lots of laws, so maybe that's the wrong term, but I just want to make sure that we're clear in what we're doing. And if my concern would be, the county attorney has said that he feels like the schools, being that using it, the facility would also keep them. And I don't mind telling the schools that if they have an event out there, that they have to put some signage out there because it's in use at this area. I just want to make sure that we're clear on what would be expected and what would be allowed.
Well, two comments on that. First, even though the schools would be using those properties, they're still county property, so it would be up to this board to decide that. I think they could certainly provide input, but I think the ultimate decision would have to come from this board. I did consult with the fella at the North Carolina Department of Justice, who is the trainer of the people who actually teach the concealed carry courses in North Carolina, to try to get an interpretation on some of these issues. Because the statutes are confusing, they've been amended a number of times, and there are a number of exceptions, a lot of which don't apply to our situation here, but they're pretty confusing, and so I wanted to make sure that I had a good understanding. It's their belief in the way they train, and I've looked at their manuals, that they believe that if the schools are using a county property, that concealed carry is prohibited. So I would defer to them as being more knowledgeable than I am about it, because they deal with it day in and day out in terms of understanding these statutes and as I said, training the people who offer the courses that you have to take in order to be able to obtain your permit. So I just offer that as an additional authority for that proposition.
And also to clarify, this is what we have, that we had the public hearing on, was North Carolina General Statute 14-415.23. So that would be, should we not reference that in your motion? Just for clarity's sake, that's where it's coming from? I just want to make sure I have the right number to.
Sure, we can reference that. I can make a.
Just add that.
I'd be happy to amend the motion to include a reference to the statutory reference you cited.
Okay. To the appropriate statute. I just want to make sure that's, when you get to the .23, and I like to make sure it's not .21 or something, you know.
That is the general enabling statute. There are a number of others that touch on this area. Particularly some of the exceptions are listed in other statutes, but that is the enabling statute.
And I can specifically say, Megan, under point 2, acknowledging that we have the permissible right to regulate firearms in certain areas of the park under it is well, I can give you the statutory reference. It was 14-415.23.
I just think that's important to have in there, if that's what we're getting this from. So, okay. There is a motion on the table, Commissioners. Is there a second?
I'll second.
To his motion? Okay. And now open for discussion.
Yeah, I'll second Commissioner Ostright's motion, and I will say I'm a firm believer that anyone that is a concealed permit holder, I believe, should be able to exercise their right to carry their concealed weapon to where they so choose. You know, these concealed carry permits require a class, background check. We've heard a number of other things. So, you know, I feel better knowing that there are individuals in society that are carrying a concealed weapon in case there's
situation that arises. So as that, I said I would second Commissioner Osterreich's motion, and I'll be happy to vote in favor of this.
Larry?
I don't have any problem with it. I think the Second Amendment gives us that right to start with.
Steve, do you have any extra comments?
The only concern that I have, which I have expressed previously, is that we do not, as some of our speakers have mentioned, unwittingly cause somebody to break the law. And since this motion, I think, makes our rules at the parks less restrictive than the municipalities, if somebody experiences a problem, it's going to be there as opposed to ours. So I do not have any other concerns other than the legalities that you've discussed previously regarding the schools. And that I hope we can clear up so that people are not confused.
How about the parks that are owned by the county but are run by the city? They got different rules than what the county's going to have.
We talked about that at the work session. Do you remember you're talking about WW Flow
Right.
specifically. It's a county property, but the city runs it, or operates it, which would their ordinance or our ordinance cover it?
I think we determined that their ordinance would control.
That's what I remembered from our work session.
Do they lease that property from us, Rich, or do they just operate it for us?
We may have to defer to her. It's been a while since I've looked at that.
There is a lease agreement, a contract with the city for Farm Mill from Harrisburg and WW Flow for the city of Concord, both, in which they both chose to prohibit in the areas which they could, which were the pools, the ball fields, and the recreation centers.
Londa, of all of those parks, I think the only area that would be influenced is just the single ball fields at Flow Park.
W Flow.
Well, I would like to at least put in this that in our next negotiation, I don't know how long that lease term is, but that we at least look at asking them to open concealed carry because it is our park, but I don't think I'll be here when that happens.
They're both 25-year leases.
That would make two of us.
I hope I'm not either.
I hope you're not either, nothing personal, but, okay. Do you need it?
Just for a point of clarification, I just want to make sure and ask Mr. Cook, based on Commissioner Osterreich's motion, is it enough specificity in there that we can move and make all of the changes that we need to make within our code of ordinances? Or does it give us flexibility to make those changes, or do we need to make sure there's some more specific sections, just more specifically Chapter 46 and Chapter 50 of what we've been talking, and those are the two areas that we more specifically talk about gun control or concealed weapons. So.
Well, I think the way Commissioner Osterreich has framed his motion, it wasn't in the form of it being the exact ordinance language. So I think we would need to do that consistent with his motion, with reference to the parks or the parks aspect of it as it relates to the schools. I think that the language would be not otherwise, we just add language not otherwise prohibited by state law and just leave it like that, if that would be acceptable.
Okay.
And then we can, if we have to flush that out a little bit later, then we can do that.
Okay.
If the commission, if it's their pleasure, we can certainly, of course, you're going to consider this tonight and presumably vote on it. If it's approved, then we could submit the exact language at the next meeting, if you would like to see that, to make sure it's consistent with with what your vote is. Okay.
I think that would be good to do that, so.
Can I ask a question?
Not right now.
Quick question. All this discussion going on between these lawyers about this ordinance, how do you ever expect the average individual to understand all this? I'd just like you to address that for a second.
I'm just trying to make sure that our county attorney gives the board proper advice, and that's why I've asked on
You're
him.
not supposed to understand it. Just forget it.
But we do have a motion in a second. Commissioners, are there any other comments that anyone would like to make at this time? Okay, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Our next item is number 2. Kelly Sifford is here. Here you are. We also need to have a public hearing for this.
That's correct. For the viewing audience, Cabarrus County has participated in the Cabarrus Iredell Rowan Home Consortium for a number of years. This program provides housing rehabilitation services to low-income families with priority given to elderly and disabled. When a home is rehabilitated under this program, it must be repaired to meet current housing codes, and all lead hazards must be abated. Each year, staff is required to produce a CAPER, which is a report on our activities, describing the year's activities, and to hold a public hearing. 1 unit was rehabilitated this year, and 3 more went through the qualification process for a total expenditure on all 4 projects of $89,674. This equates to 91% of the grant amount. The total must be expended within 4 years of the date of the release of the grants.
Okay, so we're holding a public hearing, just see if anyone would like to speak.
Yes,
on
if
this
anybody has
particular
any
item.
comments on it.
Okay. So at this time, I will open the public hearing for anyone to speak for or against this item of the CAPER report concerning the home consortium. Is anyone here to speak for or against? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And that's all we're required to do, right, is have the public hearing. Okay. Okay, the next 2 items, Commissioner Burridge, you were the one that tabled those.
You want to put them back on your business?
I did, thank you very much. I would recommend that we table it until our October regular meeting. That we would table both of them, but I can make individual motions to table item number 3 until our regular October meeting. And I would call and see if there's a second to that motion. I can give you a reason why. We still don't have information, so.
We still don't have information from the school board, correct?
That would be correct.
I'll second that.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
I have some discussion. We had set this money aside to build our schools. I'd like to go ahead and give this money to Mount Pleasant, to be honest with you. I think we had told them we were going to give them additional $2 million. The school board has said that maybe that's not quite enough. I'd like to go ahead and allocate to them $3.9 million. Go ahead and put all the cash aside to be ready to build that school. And the longer that this money sits here, the longer that it's going to burn a hole in people's pocket, and people are going to start thinking about different ideas. And I would like to go ahead and get that money put into the account so that, David Thompson has come in here and said that the money's not going to anything good, and I want to make sure that the citizens of Cabarrus County know that this money was put aside to save us probably $2 or $3 million in interest costs. So I'd like to allocate it and move it over to Mount Pleasant.
Okay. Is there any other comments? If there is a motion and a second to table this, because the reason for me is we haven't gotten the information we've been waiting on. So.
And the school board still hadn't decided where they're going to build that school.
Well, I think, and we'll talk about this some with respect to Northwest, but they have essentially just been playing political games with us for the last year, preparing what looks to be a potential lawsuit. And, I'm tired of being subject to that. I'm tired of sitting there waiting. I think at this point now, their goal is to basically get through the election without anybody talking about the fact that they're potentially going to sue us, even though we provided, they came to us last year, asked us for a new turf field. We gave it to them. Asked us for funding for schools. We gave them $30 million. They asked us for a raise for our teachers. We gave that to them. And I think they're just trying to wait out the clock. Quite frankly, I think the people of Mount Pleasant deserve something better than them waiting out the clock. I think they deserve some commitment that we are going to fund their school. And I'd like to go ahead and do that tonight. I mean, if there wasn't a motion on the table, I'd make a motion to put this $3.9 million in that fund and move it over. That's what it was there for, to build schools.
They were in the process of trying to get somebody to take over that land and building down there and move the school totally somewhere else. Last school board meeting, correct?
I think it was just discussions, or is it?
I know it was
action?
discussion, but they had some offers,
that they're
I think.
looking at based on the newspaper article.
Yeah, they had some offers. So my question is, what's the school board going to do?
Our next mediation date is October 14th, and this would be the Monday right afterwards. So that would give us time to see if we can get information. That's the reason that I picked the regular meeting, just to get to the next mediation, that next Monday. If we got some answers and we want to look at it then, fine then. I just think it would be good for us to get the information from them.
I want to get soil and water some money out of this, but I can't get it, so we'll try that again next month.
So any other comments? I mean, there is a motion, there's a second on the table motion and second to table this until the October regular meeting. All those in favor of tabling, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so it will be tabled. The motion carries 4-1. I would make the same motion for the next item to table that until the October regular meeting for the same reason. Is there a second to the motion?
No, I'm not going to second that one because that goes to school roofs. We got school roofs out there leaking now, so.
Okay. I made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any other discussion?
Well, I would just say that they came to us in January, and I don't know if you remember this, but they told us to go ahead and put their bond on the ballot for May, knowing that RCCC and Kannapolis City Schools could not possibly be on the bond in May because they had not submitted the things. And they said, we don't care. We want you to vote on this tonight because we're ready for this money to go on. And, as we continually look at things, they don't know what they're doing with Northwest Elementary School. They don't know what they're doing with Mount Pleasant. We've got this money set aside for the roofs, and we're not getting the information from them, apparently. I mean, we're not part of the mediation. So, but, they worked so hard to set this up to be a political issue for the May race, and it was a tremendous disservice to the citizens of Cabarrus County. They cared more about getting political leverage than they cared about planning and actually using money wisely, and we're going to talk about that in the next issue.
If we vote on it, I'd like to see us change it to be used for school roofs, because you leave that other part out there, they don't tell what they'll spend it on.
Yeah.
It might go to ball fields, it might go to,
Any other comments? Okay, there is a motion and a second to table this until the October regular meeting. All those in favor of tabling it, say aye. Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
You were a yes. Okay, so the motion carries 3-2.
But I will say that with the first item, I know we were just discussing the roofs, but the construction fund, I do think that money should go to the Mount Pleasant Middle School project. So since this has been tabled once again to our general meeting in October, I would like to see some action with that.
May I ask that between now and the work session in October, because the mediation is between those two, if there's anything in particular that the three of you would like to make sure that we ask, information you need, or anything that we need to relay, Larry and I will be happy to do that on your behalf.
Yeah,
if you'll just let us know.
We also need some kind of a commitment from the school board on what they're going to do with Mount Pleasant. They're going to leave it there, they're going to move it, they're going to, are they going to build it in Cabarrus County or Stanley County? I don't know what they're going to do.
Well, I think you and I can ask questions at the next mediation, but if there's something else, because it is limited to the two of us, please let us know, and we'll be happy to ask any questions that you have. That's not a problem. You just need to tell us what else you want to ask, so no problem. You had asked to move 3 from the consent down to number 5, so I will turn it over to you for comments.
After thinking about this, they want to move these funds, and that purpose of needing $94,000 was the fault of the school board in making a change in the middle of the school design. I don't think the county taxpayers will have to pick up the tab for that. So with that said, the only reason I want it back on new bid is so I can vote against it.
Okay, and just to clarify, this is not additional funds. This
I know it's not additional, but it's moving funds from one location to another, and they're going to come back next month and want the funds that we're going to relocate.
I want to make sure that I'm clear also, because I don't want to speak incorrectly. Their architecture costs were increased, and they want to move it from the money that they have for land for this site, for this same school, into the architects.
But their architectural funds was changed because they changed the design of the school.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that. I want to make sure that everybody here and that listens understands that that's what it is, that it wasn't new money that we were putting it. They're trying to move it from their pot for that land for that same project to the architecture cost for that same project.
Right.
You're correct. They changed their design, and they have incurred additional cost. I just want
So
to
they ought
make
to
sure
take-
everybody knows what we're talking about.
Those funds ought to come out of their money, not the county.
What was their
Which is county
purpose?
money anyway.
What was their purpose for changing designs? I haven't heard that. I know you guys meet with the school
Well,
system.
now that was in the paper. They went from a
1
K-5
through-
design to a 3-5 design, and they had already started some design work, and I think they had additional costs. That's about the most that I recollect. I don't go to their meetings, so I'm not certain. I just know what I read in the
that you
paper.
guys have, chair, vice chair meetings, so I was wondering.
We haven't had
Okay.
anything since mediation.
Okay.
I haven't had a conversation with them other than at the work session. Their finance director presented that their architect cost had gone up, and that's where they wanted to shift within the project in order to cover the architecture cost.
Okay.
I'm not defending or debating, it's just that's what she presented, so. Anybody else that you want to?
I do. I mean, I think I don't disagree with anything that you said, Chairman Poole, but essentially they had an amount of money to spend on architecture fees. They rushed, as I said, I think to put us in a bind before the election to get this school engineered as a K-5 school, and then decided that they couldn't use it as a K-5 school, so they had to go back and spend more money to get it engineered as a grades 3 to 5 school. And so what they're asking us for is the more money to get it re-engineered as a grade 3 to 5 school. Now, as I said in the thing, this is a waste of money. They should have planned what kind of school they needed. I mean, the circumstances over in that corridor have not changed. The idea that a K-5 school at the old Odell site being right next door to the K-5 school at the new Odell site didn't make sense. It's not a new issue. That has been there since the new Odell school was built. And they just didn't want to take the time to do the due diligence to figure out what kind of project would be efficient for the county. And instead, they went ahead and spent the money, and they wasted the money. And now they would like for us to come back and give them more of your money, and they wasted your money. And I cannot in good conscience give them more money. And I know that this is technically in their budget, but they have not, or in a different budget. They have not told us whether that amount of money is sufficient for development costs. They haven't given us any kind of budget for development costs. So when we take money from there and put it here, we're probably going to have to replenish it here. And so really technically it is going to be, when you really look at this project, it's going to be an additional $95,000. And as I said at the work session, I would rather, they have a whole list of issues that they need help with. I'd rather the $95,000 go to one of those issues as opposed to waste, and they need to be better stewards with the people's money, and I won't vote to support that.
Any other comments? Okay, we have, did you make a motion? I'm sorry. It was on the consent now that it's off. Have you made a motion to be voted on, or does anybody want to make a motion? Did you make a well, no, I don't think so.
What kind of motion you want?
Well, it's not a kind of motion I want. We have before us a request the request is a motion to approve the budget amendment as they presented it, which would transfer funds for the within the Northwest Elementary School construction project. That's what they have asked for.
I'll make a motion that we deny it.
Okay. To deny their request.
Right.
Okay. I just want to make sure I know the motion. Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Second. There's a motion and there is a second. Sorry, let me write that down. Any further discussion?
I have a question. Where is that on our agenda?
It's under
Well,
consent.
we've already voted on consent.
No, we pulled this one
We
off.
pulled this off consent.
Oh,
He did pull it off at the very
I thought we pulled
beginning.
off, okay, that transfer of funds. Okay, gotcha. I'm with you now.
Okay, no problem. And it is, sorry, I can find the page number if you need it, 121 in your budget book, if you want to turn to that, is what's referenced. Okay, so we have a motion to deny the request to transfer funds, and you seconded it. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. So your motion carries 3-2. Okay. Let me get to the right, place again. Commissioners, next we have appointments. And the first one we have is, Cardinal Innovations Healthcare Solutions Community Oversight Board. requested to remove Kristen Barbie from their roster and to appoint Betty Babb to complete.
Need to be an exception. She's already on the Human Services.
Right, I'm getting there.
Okay.
To complete an unexpired term ending July 31st, 2017 as the citizen/stakeholder representative, including an exception to the multiple service provision of the appointment policy. I have a motion that, you seconded? Yeah. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The next one is Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. We're asked to have a motion to remove Lou Ann Andrews, sheriff designee, and thank her for her service, to appoint Dean Vernon as the sheriff designee representative for a 2-year term ending September 30th, 2016. A motion to reappoint Susan Burns, school superintendent/designee, Emily Coltrane, chief court counselor/designee, Deidre Webb, area mental health director designee, Perry Gabriel, active living and parks, Marie Ramseur at large, and Angela Ward at large to the JCPC for 2-year terms ending September 30th, 2016, including an exception to the length of service provision of the appointment policy for Ms. Burns and Ms. Ward, and exception to the residency provision of the appointment policy for Ms. Webb. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Sorry, my iPad needs to catch up. Okay, the next is Planning and Zoning Commission. This time accept a motion to appoint Mr. Robin Torrance from the Harrisburg area to fill the alternate position vacated by Mr. Pinto for an unexpired term ending August 31st, 2016. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And next, for the Cabarrus County Tourism Authority, a motion to appoint Angie Brown to seat number 5, hotelier on the Cabarrus County Tourism Authority to complete an unexpired term ending June 30th, 2015, including an exception to the residency provision of the appointment policy. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a motion and a second? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Commissioners, you have a number of reports in your packet, and we have general comments by board members. Are there any general comments at this time?
Madam Chairman, I did have a few. I usually try to report on the, after our library trustees meeting, and a lot of this information has already been shared tonight, but I will give you just a few figures. July circulation was 76,353. New library cards issued during the month of July were 978. I was surprised at almost 1,000 new library cards. That brings our total up to 72,667. The total door count was a little over 44,000 in the month of July. Would like to extend compliments to them in conjunction with the Literacy Council on the Buzzword Spelling Bee, a very successful event, very enjoyable. Any of you that missed that, I encourage you to attend next year as long as you don't get trapped like Commissioner Poole and I did when we were called from the audience to form a team. And so I did want to say publicly that I think that Commissioner Poole gave me the correct spelling of the word that kicked us out, and then when I got to the microphone, I said it wrong. So I take full responsibility for that. Our trustees meeting was a little bit sad in that we were saying goodbye to Dana Ure, who has been our library director for about 5 years. I think Dana has done an excellent job. She's been very fortunate to secure a position in Mecklenburg County. And I'm sure she will do extremely well there, and we certainly wish her the very best. Unfortunately, we've had quite a few other resignations at the library, and it is a problematic issue that I hope that we will be able to work through in the near future. And we talked at our work session a little bit about the reasons for those resignations, and I think the word that I got back was the exit interviews had not shed a lot of light on that. Most of those people chose not to have that discussion as they left. I think that a lot of employees that have been there for a long time remember back to February of 2010 when the county cut 19 library pages and 9 library assistants from the library. I think that was a total of 26 positions. The hours were cut at that time. Of course, they've now been cut again. Some of those folks that were, I think they understood in 2010 that we had some financial issues to deal with. We were in the middle of a recession. That's when Philip Morris had left the county, so they were willing to hang on for better days. I think this last round of cuts probably sent a message to them that better days have not arrived and are not likely to. So I feel that is probably an explanation as to why we're experiencing that. But they continue to do a good job, and hopefully we'll be able to look at ways of following the advice of some of our public speakers tonight in that regard. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Chris, do you have anything? Okay. Sorry, Jason.
I do have one comment, particularly about the libraries. Commissioner Morris, you have for several months talked about this, and you know, it's just time to go ahead and tell the truth. One of the big problems that we had at the libraries, right, was that you went to the library board and told them a completely false number about what the proposed cuts were. We were talking about cutting potentially up to $13 million, and you went to them and told them $30 million. And then they took some of their precious library time that's supposed to be used for the library and went and talked to the Friends of the Library and gave them false information with this fake call to action that had totally untruthful information in it right before the election in an effort to fill this chamber up so that the people that were proposing a more fiscally responsible plan would look poor right before the election. Now, this whole that action led to the memorandum that we talked about. So I really feel that it's very hypocritical for you to stand up and talk about the library as much as you do when you have personally, in your decisions, to lie to them and to implement this plan of lie has caused a lot of damage to our library. And I think you ought to take responsibility for that because you have acted in a hidden manner throughout this election. And I don't have anything to gain from this, folks. I am leaving office. I don't have any plan to run. But it is important that we know the truth about our officials. Through the election, you did that time and time again. And your organization, Cabarrus Jobs Now, I've got the email in my bag that talks about how we were going to close down the senior centers, and we were going to close down all the Lunch Plus, and we were going to close down all the libraries, and we were going to close down the parks. And you had about 14 from your organization. I believe Diane Honeycutt hosts that website, so it was you and Miss Diane have founded that organization. And you used just a series of scare tactics, and you used our library employees to implement that. And I believe that had a damaging impact on our libraries, and I believe you ought to take responsibility for it, to be quite frank.
Yes! That's not necessary to holler out. Do you have general comments?
Yeah, that wasn't a Lives Now organization, was it? Anyway, what I want to tell you, on October 4th, on Smith Lake Road, the Fred Udy Fish Fry starts at 4 o'clock. It's for the benefit the Mount Pleasant Food Bank. If you're running for anything, want to meet a lot of people, come down there. If you're running from anybody, come down there. So thank you.
And I want to make a comment that if you are in a spelling bee, let me warn you, do not go up against Chief Deputy Hunt. He acts like he might not necessarily know how to spell too many words, but he can spell the ones that make no sense. And Rich Cook.
County attorney, you don't want to go against him either.
You do not want to go against him because I'm not even certain I could pronounce half of the words that he got up, and he would start and he'd kind of like took forever to say nothing personal, took forever to get to the microphone, and then he would rattle off some word that was 20 characters long, and it was like, yeah, no big deal. So don't go up against either of those. They went back and forth for a good number of rounds, and Chief Deputy Hunt also acted like it wasn't a big deal. Actually, they went out on a fairly smaller more simpler word than some of the other ones they got, but it was a fun event. So, and they were good spellers. So, and the fair just wrapped up. I know I believe all of us had a chance to go out there. So, I wanted to give thanks to Kate Sharp and all the fair people, the fair board, all their volunteers, Frank Lapsley, and all the arena staff. I don't think the weather cooperated as well this year. I kept thinking it was going to rain, and then it didn't, which was a good thing, but I think it kept some people away. But I had a great time out at the fair, and they always do a really good production, and so I want to thank them and everybody. The sand sculpture was back, which made me happy. I like to see that as it progresses during the week, and I thought it was very nice. And so I want to say thank you to all of them. And Commissioners, we do not need a closed session, so would you like to, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. That's why I mentioned it to you to begin with. Reverend Jordan, you got here late and we'd already done our public comments, but I do want to give you an opportunity because you've stayed with us to make your public comments.
Well, thank you very much. I wanted to be on time, but I had an emergency. Take one to the hospital. But again, I thank you for letting me speak. But I'm talking about taxing nonprofit churches. I got a problem against that. Because our churches, everybody don't pay their tithes. And when we have sales, Great Lutheran hot dogs is $1, soda 75 cents. That's $2 just about get food on that, you know. We ain't making no money on the nonprofit churches there. And I would y'all take that into consideration. Nonprofit, that's poor people, see? Get them rich people, they got the money. That's all I have to say. May bless you, but you got to answer to God on that, okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's why I said it to you, because I tend to do that. So may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much for being here.